Hello, welcome to Dan Really Likes Wine, presented by Pick n Pay, and welcome to a restaurant called Les Créatifs. I've tried to put as much of a French spin on that as I can. It's a restaurant that is owned and run by a very exciting young chef, Wandile Masabo, who has got a huge amount of acclaim in a very short space of time. And normally it is Wandile and his food that represents the star attraction at this particular restaurant. But I'm afraid today they've been blown out of the water by a bespectacled winemaker who's arrived armed with some rather nice bubbles. Francois, welcome.
Welcome. It's great to be here. Thank you so much. Must say, I'm looking forward to see what Wandile has got for us today and how he's going to pair our great selection of Cap Classiques with his products.
Well, let's fire that question off straight away then, because we have a perception, and it's one that I think is changing slowly, and we're trying to encourage that change on Dan Really Likes Wine, but still has a long way to go, of where bubbles, champagne, Cap Classique, Prosecco sits in our consumption space. And for many people, it's a celebration, it's an anniversary, it's some sort of occasion, or it's a quick aperitif before we get onto the wine for our food. Whereas bubbles of any sort, but Cap Classique in particular, paired with food, can make for such an exciting combination.
I know, I have to agree. I've been to a couple of tastings where now we do the entire tasting profile with Cap Classique. And it is absolutely amazing because the amount of difference you get in the Cap Classique making styles in South Africa is amazing. I mean, you get the nice straight line, focused type of styles that Lude is quite famous for. And then you also get those big, bolder styles. And so you can pair it with about any type of dish, from your starter to your dessert. And then also just for a nightcap, even. I mean, it's an amazing, versatile type of product. And to talk about how Cap Classique is doing in South Africa, it's the only wine category that's still growing with double digits every single year. So you can see there is a demand for it.
And that demand is due to a number of things. I think the 50th anniversary this year has helped people to get a little bit more focus onto Cap Classique. And the cost of the value, if you compare that to what you might get out of a French bottle, is generally exceptional. But then there's also the aspect of some rather talented winemakers who produce some pretty good wine, which is where you come in. Give us a little bit of the background story, how you worked your way into wine and eventually found yourself at Lude.
Sure. Are you sure you've got enough time for this?
We'll give it our best shot.
So, born, bred Stellenbosch, from a family of winemakers. I'm basically the third generation of my family that's in the wine game. From my grandfather that bought the farm, my father that toiled and also worked for SFW for a little bit, to my brother that was also in the wine industry, and then I came along. And although everybody said don't do it, I went head first into the winemaking business. Never looked back, I must say. So after my studies at Stellenbosch, I went to work for Vergelegen with Andre van Rensburg, which I think is one of the most colorful winemakers in South Africa. I also traveled quite abroad to actually see what's going on around the world and get behind different styles, especially in America, which is very unique. Came back to South Africa, worked again at Vergelegen, and then went to Asara to become head winemaker there at a very young age of 27. Quite a big feat, I must say. Parted ways from Asara and started to join the Dupree family in re-establishing their Cap Classique brand in the Brede Kloof. Love the family, also very close to my heart. And then I made a decision to refocus only on Cap Classique and join the Lude team from 2020.
And why that focus? Why Cap Classique? What is it about that makes it your space?
Well, after actually studying some more into the wine business side of things and realizing also how the great potential that South Africa has for Cap Classique and working with Cap Classique throughout my entire career, from Vergelegen all the way through to Asara and the Dupree family, I wanted to have that focus again. And I love that very strict focus you've got in Cap Classique, because you have to do everything just a little bit more. You have to have a little bit more focus. Your fermentation processes, we do it twice. So you have to focus on not just one, but fermenting a product twice before you can actually take it to the market. And it's just something quite unique, I find, in South Africa.
which makes it a rather nice match because in Lude you've got a brand that's not remotely interested in doing anything but Cup Classique, and speaks to quite a cool story in Franschhoek where I always get the sense there's a quiet, not often spoken of rivalry, Franschhoek versus Robertson, who's owning the Cup Classique space. And with Lude you've got a real focus, much like yourself, on just making absolutely fantastic bubbles.
Absolute focus on premium. And I'm going to be the last person to say that Franschhoek and Robertson has to be in a tiff about the war for Cup Classique, because every great Cup Classique comes with a variety of fruit components that you have to find across the Western Cape. I don't believe that you can only specifically say one area is going to make the best. Every year is different. Every year you have to decide, I'm going to take my fruit from Robertson and my fruit from Elgin and maybe some fruit from Stellenbosch and Franschhoek or even Plet or the West Coast, and I'm going to make what I need to make. So you have to have quite laser focus on your different components and styles. So Robertson, I think everybody gets a bit of fruit from Robertson. I mean, those deep calcitic soils are absolutely beautiful, and it just makes for the showcase of minerality in your Cup Classique, which is beautiful. And for us, we take in quite a lot of fruit from Franschhoek, which gives us, again, that extremely beautiful white peach, pear components, the riper fruit styles. Then I love Elgin. Elgin, everything is green there. So you've got green fruit, so a bit of green apple, citrus, lime that comes through in those components. And then the coastal areas gives you that salinity that I find is very important in the production of Cup Classique.
Which then allows you a versatility in terms of what you produce. Now, if we go back 50 years and Mr. Milan in his very first bottle, that was Cup Classique. And for a long time, it was a component. You had a Sauvignon Blanc and you had a Chardonnay and a Chenin Blanc and a selection of reds. You had a Cup Classique. Now, whether it's some of the bigger estates or houses like yourself, it's a range of Cup Classique. How much is that we're winemakers, we're having fun, we're able to do stuff that is really cool and different? And how much is it that South Africans are understanding the differences in Cup Classique and realizing, well, I like this particular style more than that particular style, and you can cater to a palate that has that level of education?
There's a lot of work in the education for South Africans, and with associations like the Cup Classique Association, we are doing extremely well, I believe. And I believe that we are teaching everybody a little bit more about the different styles, because most people in South Africa will still call it a champagne. They haven't found the difference, what is champagne and what is Cup Classique. So now we are bringing out different styles. So we are adding a little bit to the confusion of the South African market, but every style that we make is very specific, catered for the market. So if you go through even our range that we've got a certain type of market specificity in each and every product that we produce. And clientele, even if they don't always know the in-depth descriptions of Cup Classique, they will find a product that they can associate with and that they can love.
Well, let's have a look at these products. We're going to open two of them. We'll talk about those in a sec. Start off though just with the run-of-the-mill, in as much as it is Le Lude Reserve Brut. We won't be tasting that one now, but just talk to me. I presume that's the introductory space.
Yes, so for our introductory space, we actually created two different styles of products. The one is our Brut Reserve, and then we also have our Rosé Reserve. The one, which is the Brut Reserve, focuses mainly on the Chardonnay style. So you've got about 91% Chardonnay with 9% Pinot Noir, and it is clean, it's crisp, and it is covered with white fruit. So I'm talking about your lime, your bit of white pear characters, elderflower even coming through, and aging of about 3 years on the lease. So it's, for us, it's an entry-level product, but for most other people, it's quite an extensive aging process. But again, the Brut is our nice white component. Then if we focus on the Rosé, the Brut Rosé Reserve is also 3 years age, but there you've got 65 Chardonnay and 35% Pinot Noir. So now with the Pinot Noir fraction, you start moving into red territory. So you're going to go to cranberry, pomegranate flavor components. That shows white very nicely, but also with a very crisp and linear focus that we've got. So all our wines are extremely focused on on the type of mouthfeel and your levels of pH and acidities.
They've also had an investment of time. 9 months has become 12 months in terms of the minimum time you can have on lease. You've tripled that. You've got 3 years.
Yes.
Investment of time also means investment in money.
Yes.
So you've clearly made a conscious call that even for what is the start of our range, it's going to have that care taken with it.
Yes, and now hopefully, well, with this whole lockdown situation that we've had in the past, and I'm very, very happy with what the president said last night. But now we're probably going to go over to 4 years of aging on the lease, because you have to look at the bright side of things.
Well, good for you, because I think the wine benefits from it, and even more so with the other one that we're not tasting, or at least not just yet, 2013 vintage. Is there an understanding, you spoke of the education still needs to be done, is there a growing understanding of the value of vintage and of hanging on to a Cap Classique for a bit longer?
Oh no, definitely. Our certain markers that we aim for are starting to understand the reason behind your vintage cuvées. As every single vintage will be different, and our focus vintage cuvées will show the difference between the vintages, which is absolutely amazing. And they do enjoy it. For instance, our 2012 vintage cuvée, which did extremely well for Lude, the 97 decanter points, we're actually releasing again in the 2022 when we've got 10 years of lease aging on it. So people are starting to realize what your aging potential can do for Cap Classique.
Right, well, we're not tasting those just yet. We are tasting a couple of others, and I'm particularly interested by this. Now, if you have a look at that, it would appear that something has gone horribly wrong at the top. There's a bit of metal stuck on. The cork is squashed. You've obviously had a problem here.
Definitely.
Except, of course, you haven't. This is the Agraf breed. Tell me about this fixture, this closing.
Well, we ran out of the crown cap, and we had to decide what to do. And, well, we just decided to put this staple on it. So the staple is what's called the Agraf. So this is the Agraf method, which is the olden method of actually fermenting for the second fermentation of Cap Classiques. They used to add cork instead of the crown cap. So that was an old method that was used, and the Lude team brought that methodology back to South Africa again, and to just show another different style of Cap Classique production. So during your second fermentation, it would usually be under a crown cap, and then the crown cap will hold the bubble inside the bottle, and that will create the pearl, and that initially creates what everybody is looking after. So here, instead of doing the crown cap, we put a cork in it, and it's now the second fermentation underneath cork, and it adds a lot of complexity and more depth of flavor.
All right, so it's not just let's throw back to history for something different and cool. There's a real functionality to it as well.
Yes, because you get that extra component that comes back in. So, of course, with the crown cap, you've got a little bit of a plastic liner, and that prevents any flavor components of happening or any gas of escaping. While with the cork, you've got now a natural sealant. So that natural sealant will also impart different types of characters and flavors to your Cap Classique. So that cork will actually then emphasize some certain tertiary flavor profiles of your Cap Classique. So you had primary fruit that was exploding through the crown cap. Yeah, because there's a little bit of a higher oxidative potential because of the cork. Now you are looking at baked pear, baked apple, let's say strawberry tartlet. So more of a sugared components that actually also starts developing. So it is an extremely unique product, and it's amazing to actually taste the difference between a 2013 on the crown cap and a 2013 under cork.
How do you get it on? How do you get it off?
Well, luckily there is a machine that we do use in the cellar that makes it easier. So we've got a machine that basically is exactly like a staple. It pushes the cork in, pushes the staple on, and then slides the staple across the neck of the bottle that holds it tight. So then after the aging happens of this one is for about 7 years on the lease, then that bottle will come out, we'll riddle it, so all the sediment lies on the cork. Then we'll freeze the cork and a little bit of the neck of the bottle, and then I have to step in and literally open up the Agraf and shoot out the cork with the yeast. So every bottle has to be handled by me in that method. So we don't do a lot. I might be a bit lazy, but we only do about
This sounds
4
like one
to
of those
500
things,
bottles.
it sounded like a great idea at the time. All right, look, I want to know how you open it now, though. I see you're come armed with what looks like a knife.
Yeah, for the show, I brought what I would say one dealer gave me a butter knife to open it up with. But it's a very simple process. Basically, always keep your thumb on the top of the cork for in case it does explode upward.
Yeah.
So you just slowly put the knife between the gruff and you just do a nice little bit of a twist. And then it just slides off.
Now this is the kind of thing where you do that and it looks so easy, and I do that and I've got to cork up my nose, champagne everywhere, and I'm seeing how the Lude works as a conditioner.
Yes, it works very well. Trust me, I've done it a couple of times. So then, of course, never just pop the bottle, pop the cork, just slowly slide open the cork, and just wait for that soft little whoosh.
How good was that? Masterful.
And then you just see that cloud of CO2 just rolling over the lip of the bowl.
Out. Oh, all right. Well, the method of opening it was artful. Let's see if the wine...
Is my pouring skills also okay, or
I think you've done this once or twice before.
just once or twice?
Now, is this a particular vintage or non-vintage?
So this is the 2013.
Right.
So shall I go the 2013 Agraf?
There we go.
And probably now, thank you, Dan. I can be on your show.
Cheers. Of course, it's wine that I think you can definitely sell the first bottle for to somebody coming to visit the Lude simply because of the novelty factor. But you want to sell more than one bottle, so let's see how it goes. I think you said baked fruit a little earlier, and that's exactly what is
exactly that. But the first thing that I've noticed, because I go through the steps, as you well know. So the first thing, there was no cork floating about, and it's clear and it's clean, and that's what you want. That's the first thing I always look at. And the color is still very fresh. Even after that 6 years of aging on a cork, you still have freshness of color. Then the bubble is fine. There's lots of finesse there. And you can see it just going to keep on going. So visually, I love it. Then on the nose, you definitely get that tertiary characters coming through of that baked apple, baked pear, a little bit of almond, and the brioche of the aging potential, or the aging that it did. And then on the palate, it's smooth. You've got this very crisp, limey zest still coming through. And that is where our focus is. We don't want something that's too broad on the palate. We focus on that linearity, that crispness, the smoothness. And your mouth almost starts watering after you tasted it. And then it's like, I just want a little bit, another sip, just to taste it again.
Purely for research purposes here, Francois.
Of course,
purely
of course.
for research purposes. All right, you've sold me on this. You had sold me just on the cool factor of the bottle. But what's inside is pretty good as well. It's one of two we're tasting. The other one is one that's got a very cool and slightly unpronounceable name, the Venus Vodnature Millésime, is that right?
You can pronounce it how you want it. Millésime or Millésime. It's both pronunciations. According to me, is correct. I'm sure I'm going to be shots at by a couple of the French people out there. But yeah, the next product that we would love to show is going to be the Le Lude Venus Brut Nature Millésime 2014 vintage. So this was launched in September last year. We've only made about 600 bottles. The rest of the bottles are still lying down in the caves, and we're going to see how the market goes. But it is something quite unique, and I think very enjoyable. So there was a trend that's coming to South Africa, that's also overseas, of making wine more natural, not adding your dosages and keeping it as it was found. So we decided to also go that route with the Venus. So the Venus, of course, is Venus in the shell, so from the sea. And she was already perfect, so we didn't have to put clothing on her or makeup on her. So it's a zero dosage. So it is quite unique. It's basically laid bare as she was in the cellar, which is always a nice story.
So expecting something particularly dry and particularly fresh.
Extremely fresh and a beautiful, explosive bubble on the palate. Again, just slowly open it. You were waiting for it to.
I was.
And again. So the Venus 2014. You already see as I pour it in the glass, it's just begging to be heard and seen.
When we talk about vintage with Cap Classique, we're very specific when it comes to red wine in particular. Here's a year that's been great. You think of 15 or 17 in Stellenbosch with Cab in particular, but red generally. Given the amount of work that you put in as a winemaker, you're bringing together different grapes from different areas. Is the actual vintage quite as important, or is it more this is the number of years that you've had to leave this particular wine?
Vintage plays an extremely important role in it. We've had a couple of great vintages, the 2012 being one of the best we had, and we're actually expecting the 2015 to be absolutely amazing as well, followed by the 2019, and so far I'm very happy about the 2022, especially with the transition of the winter to summer, and we haven't had any heat waves. And my acidity is being protected. A vintage specific is extremely important. I do know, unfortunately, to our French brethren up there, the 2021 vintage was a horrible one because of all the rot, which also plays a very big role in the production of Cap Classique. So far, we are very happy.
All right, well, let's see how happy I am with our second and final wine to taste. It is the Venus, not the tennis player, but a tribute to nature.
So let me go a bit more in depth of the Venus. So the Venus we play on maritime classics. So even the label has got this hue of oceanic color to it with this nice green color. 30% of the fruit comes from Plettenberg Bay, of all places, where we dabble in the salinity that I talked about.
Which comes through so clearly.
So clearly. And it just shows a beautiful, almost like this ocean spray that you get on your nose, this ocean spray waft. And on the palate, as I said, you've got this explosive bubble. As soon as it gets into your mouth, it basically bursts open, and then you find this crisp lime zest just filling your palate. And then again, that watering aftertaste.
It's starting to become a habit with these particular wines. You just want that extra sip to wash down the previous one. It becomes perpetuating.
So the makeup of this wine is a little bit different than the previous one. So the Venus is basically about 54% Chardonnay with 44 Pinot Noir and 2% Pinot Meunier. Yes, I think so. I've got lots of vintages and blends, but so you tend to go to your white fruit and a little bit of your red fruit. So you can also find your gooseberry characters, but then also a little bit of cranberry that comes through on the palate for me.
All of which, of course, is well and good for Francois and myself to tell you. But the best way to decide what you think it tastes like and whether or not you like it, which I think you might just, is to, of course, try some yourself. And that sits within what's just such an exciting time at the moment for South African Cap Classique, not just making really, really good examples, but as we've seen with the Venus and with the daft but fun closure of the staple, doing stuff that's different, doing stuff that's exciting, doing stuff that's got that sense of adventure, which underlines so much of what our winemakers are doing. Francois, your adventure is clearly keeping you in great spirits. You're delivering some wonderful wine. Thanks for sharing some of it today.
Pleasure.
And I'm sure the next time we sit down, there'll again be something new, something different, and something fun.
We might just be doing something new, and we'll keep you posted, definitely.
All right, so keep an eye on both Lude and Dan Really Likes Wine for further stories from the house of Lude. Until then, it's Franschhoek and another great example of just why the French wish they could make bubbles quite as well as we do. Cheers.
Cheers to that.
To join the Pick and Pay Wine Club, simply SMS your smart shopper number to 36775. It's absolutely free and you'll get for yourself 3 times the smart shopper points on every bottle of wine bought. You'll also get a 20% discount on 10 different wines each month, a 25% discount on a case of wine, and a Magnum, some terrific competitions and invitations to awesome events.